Hi, this is Megan, and this is Stockholm. This is our webcast, More Food.
With each episode, I'll show you how to get 3 items from 1. And a few tricks to impress your foodie friends. Welcome to my kitchen. Hello, we are starting a new episode today on bread. I cook a lot of bread, bake a lot of bread, and I kind of have some crazy tools for that baking of the bread. And I know there's a whole bread baking, can you say that? Bread baking phenomenon going on with especially men. I see a lot of men with this obsessive bread baking. But I'm going to show you a basic recipe that's not using any type of sourdough starter, though you could add a ladle into it if you wanted to. But this is basic, and it's going to use yeast. This is just to get some nice loaves of bread baking in your house, making it smell nice. So let's get started on our basic bread baking. I said it. Basic bread baking. Basic bread baking. Okay. So here we go. I have this lovely big earthenware pot that I really enjoy working with. Okay, so we have our flour, which is 1 kilo of flour, and I've worked it out to be about 8 cups of flour. So you might have to work that a little bit if you're using cups, but it is 1 kilo of flour. Now, flour for baking, you want to use a strong flour. You're going to hear this a lot. That has high gluten level. And that's going to give you the bounce and the chewiness and texture in the bread that you're looking for. You could try it with regular all-purpose flour, but if you can find the stronger flour, which I think you can now, in the States there's King Arthur that has special bread flour and so on. And here in Sweden it's called Wheatmeal Special. Do you like that? So, flour. We're floured. Next step, I have 600 milliliters of tepid water. You don't want it too hot, it's going to kill your yeast. You don't want it too cold, or it's not going to activate your yeast. So you just want it just like really lukewarm bath water, which is a nice description when you're making bread, but that's what we're looking for. So most people use dry yeast, and you either have dry active yeast, which you don't even need the water, you just put it into your recipe, or they have just normal yeast. It comes in these packets. That's what it looks like. I've measured it out, if anybody can see this. It's little teeny grains, yeasty. And you're just going to, this isn't dry active, this is the normal dry yeast. So I'm just going to put it into our warm, tepid water and just get it started. In a couple minutes it's going to start to hopefully bubble and brew and all that nice stuff. If it doesn't, that means that it's probably not going to work for you. Some people like to put a little honey or sugar in as well to really start it going, but for this recipe, you don't need it. Stay there. I just want to mention about fresh yeast. I think it's about, I said 30 grams if you want to use fresh yeast. And this is what it looks like, and it just comes in these little square cakes that I've broken up for you. And the smell off of it is fantastic. I really like to use it. If you can find fresh yeast, it's just a real treat to use. You want to check the sell-by date on it, or else it could go dead on you, the live yeast. So, and when you're not using all of it, wrap it up in saran wrap really well, really tight. We're not using the fresh yeast today because I think most people out there in the world are using dry active yeast. So, yeah. So now we're having a little bubble action. The yeast is partying in its warm, tepid pool of water. I'm just going to make a little well in the center of my flour. Huh? And then I'm going to kind of sprinkle the salt around my sleeve. Actually, you know what? Who's perfect? I'm just going to mix that in, and then I'm going to make my well. Jeez Louise. That was a tablespoon of salt. And that may seem kind of crazy, but you're going to get 2 loaves of bread out of this, and the salt kind of flavor gets a bit lost if you don't have a lot of it. So, now we've got our bubbling brew. You guys are looking cool. And then you see this all the time, like if you're making pasta, if you're making anything, you say make the well in the flour and then pour in the liquid and kind of work the flour into your dough, but you know, it never works for me, so I just kind of pour it all in. Because no matter what, my hands are always stuck with dough. It just happens, that's how it is. So I'm coming around here and I'm just getting it all incorporated. You could use a wooden spoon if you're afraid of getting into it. But I kind of like smushing my hands in. Something from childhood with playing with mud pies. I didn't play with my poo that I know of. Mom, did I? Did I play with my poo? I don't think I did. Should be a little moist, but not so sticky that you can't handle it. Now, I have a fantastic KitchenAid mixer, and a lot of times I cheat and let it do my kneading of the dough because I have a 2-year-old and I'm lazy sometimes. Okay. Now we have something we can work with anyway, begin to work with. It's come together. And now we can start the kneading process. So needy! Hands on the other side. Normally, I would use a wooden surface when I'm kneading dough because it kind of catches and works with your dough really well. Unless you're doing like a butter dough, and then you want really cold marble slab, which we have over by the window. So I'm not actually going to do the kneading here, obviously, because the pans are trembling all over the place. So I'm going to take it over to the counter in just a moment to show you, okay?
My husband said, "What? My son did what?" Channel your anger here, throw it down, and then roll it and kind of knead with the palm of your hand. After about 10 minutes or so, you want to give it the check where you do the window pane test, where you stretch the dough, and it shouldn't break on you, and that's when you know you're getting close. Then just shape it roughly into a ball. You're going to add it into your vessel. Cover it with some sort of plastic wrap so the moisture stays in, and then allow it to rise maybe 2 hours until it's doubled in size.
Our bread has, our dough, I should say, has doubled in size, as you can see. And I've done a little test here. You want to have it keep moist. Finger test. If it goes in and it doesn't bounce back, then it's proofed enough. So we're just going to poofy, 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 poofy. Take it out gently.
After the first rising, you want to take the dough out and punch the air out of it, as you see I'm doing here. And don't use too much flour or you're going to end up with a really dry dough. Now you're going to form your 2 loaves of bread. Get them ready, treat them rough. Now you're just going to fold them in underneath, like I'm doing there, like a big belly button, and then firmly kind of push your hands together and out. Now is the second rising. Very biblical, isn't it? You're going to let them rise again till double in size, and it's going to be kind of wibbly and wobbly.
Wow, it's like my boobs before the baby.
I'll be completely honest with you, these have not risen enough. They're underproofed. Actually, you want them to be a little more like my boobs now after the baby, a little wibbly, a little wobbly. Maybe that was too much information. I'll probably get letters about this. So now we're just going to do a little pattern in the top, and that's going to release the steam. You want to do this fast, and then I've used a preheated tray here. Normally I would do a baking stone, but we're going to use a preheated tray, fast. Sprinkle some flour on. I've preheated the oven to 230 in Celsius, and you're just going to spray in some water to create some steam to help your loaves rise. After about 15 minutes, turn the heat down to 200 and do another 15 minutes until they look browned and are ready to go. And you'll know they're ready when you hear this hollow sound on the bottom. Try to resist cutting them open until they've cooled, because they still have steam trapped inside that's working. So resist, resist, or is resistance futile?
Don't turn off. Hey,